The fight against Air, or Air. I don't remember how to pronounce her name anymore. It's not like they said it a lot of times and you only get to fight her once. But I actually don't remember much about this fight, even though it hasn't been that long, because they all kind of blur together after you've played this game a good chunk of hours. But I do remember that she wasn't that difficult. It only took me a couple of tries. And I do no, I do remember. I don't think I'll ever forget that this is the fight. This fight against this particular Valkyrie, in which I learned that when they do that, they go into the air to do a, very powerful ground slam attack that has all the range that you can't avoid, you can't dodge it, you can't block it. That you have to throw the Leviathan axe, or you have to shoot her down with Atreus's arrows to prevent the attack from happening, because if you don't do it, you get hit, and those are some of the more powerful attacks, and they do a lot of damage. And if you watch the previous three fights of mine against the previous three Valkyries, you'll see that I would never do that. I would not do that, so I would just take the damage every time because I thought that the attack was unavoidable. And it turns out that the attack is completely avoidable so long as you have good timing, and you have good timing. You react quickly enough, and you do have more than enough time to react quickly enough, as you can see here in the footage. So once I got that, it was, my mind was blown. It's like my eyes were opened very, very widely, because I thought, holy shit, all this time I thought that this attack was unavoidable, and it's completely avoidable, and that would have made my life a lot easier from the start if I would have figured that out. But it wasn't something that ever crossed my mind, because it doesn't necessarily have to cross your mind, not for everybody. I'm sure there are some who have played this game who who might have thought of it, after a first or second try against one of the Valkyries, whichever one they happen to stumble across first and take on first. But that was not the case for me, because the Valkyries are much tougher opponents, and they have a lot more armor than than your average enemy. You can't just push them around, with the hits you get with your axes or with the blades, like you can with the majority of creatures and beasts that you fight in this game. So I didn't feel like I had any reason to assume, to guess that it was something that you could do to the Valkyries. But I discovered it by accident when it was this woman was about to jump up to start the ground slam, and I threw the axe just to do a little bit of damage, just once. And she had just taken her feet off the floor, and it stopped her literally just a couple of inches off of the ground, and that's how I discovered that. And once I discovered that, like I said, it blew my mind. It opened my eyes wide, and it just made this fight a lot easier, and it made the fight against the other Valkyries much easier. I had encountered the Valkyrie in Muspelheim in the Realm of Fire before I fought her, and I couldn't beat her for the same reason. I mean, I have better gear in this fight right now that you're seeing, but even without this better gear, I think I would have been able to take her down if I had, if the same accident had happened against her that happened in this one, and that taught me this. But yes, the Valkyries started out this series thinking, oh damn, they're incredibly tough, and they are at first. But I believe I mentioned this in the last one. Once you learn their patterns, because all of them share some of the same attacks, but they do have variations. But once you fought like the first half of them, your experience builds up, and you're good to go, and you feel good because you think, okay, there's still a challenge, but you know that you're gonna beat them after a handful of tries. And as of this upload, I already took down the Sigrun, the queen of the Valkyries. So that goes to show you that you can do it. If I can do it, anyone can do it. Well, that's a lie, because there's a lot of people out there who might not be as big fans of this series as I have been for years, and so they might not have. They might get scared off by the challenge of it. But if you do get scared off by challenges, then maybe God of War isn't a series for you anyway. Because I feel like this game is more challenging in this like normal difficulty than probably all of the previous God of War games are. Because in you played the past ones in normal difficulty, and they were a cakewalk. There really any enemy in any of the games that was a challenge in normal? Because you would do a lot of damage to them in that difficulty. If there is, I do not remember. But that was this fight, and I can't believe I actually filled the whole fight with talk this time around. Oh, and how great is Mimir? Supposedly the dwarves measured him, and they might build him a body for the next God of War, which is gonna be years away. Which makes me sad to think about, because I'd like to see that already.